The little girl had not spoken a single word in 4 years. Then, in the middle of a crowded city park on a bright spring afternoon, she looked at a stranger sitting alone on a weathered wooden bench and quietly whispered, "She sounds nice." Those 3 fragile words stopped time. Her mother, one of the country's most respected CEOs, felt her heartbeat vanish. The doctors had warned her never to expect another sentence. Therapists had gently encouraged her to celebrate small gestures instead of impossible dreams. Yet there it was, a tiny voice that seemed almost borrowed from another life. The stranger slowly turned his head, completely unaware that his ordinary afternoon had just become the answer to a prayer someone had been whispering for years. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Hub. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach more people around the world. Everyone admired Serena Vale from a distance. Newspapers called her the Steel Orchid because she had built one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country through relentless determination and extraordinary intelligence. Business magazines praised her confidence, investors celebrated her decisions, and competitors feared her sharp instincts. Yet behind the polished interviews and elegant boardrooms was a woman carrying a loneliness that no amount of success could erase. Every afternoon, no matter how demanding her schedule became, she cleared her calendar for one person alone: her 8-year-old daughter, Mireia. Years earlier, a terrible highway accident had changed everything. Serena survived with only minor injuries, but Mireia witnessed the terrifying moment that claimed her grandfather's life. The cheerful little girl who had once filled every room with laughter suddenly withdrew into complete silence. She could hear perfectly. She understood every word spoken around her. Medical specialists called it trauma-induced selective mutism. They assured Serena that patience, consistency, and unconditional love offered the greatest chance of recovery, but nobody could promise that her daughter would ever speak again. Serena refused to give up. She transformed one floor of her home into a warm and colorful space filled with books, paints, puzzles, musical instruments, and soft sunlight pouring through enormous windows. She hired respected therapists, speech specialists, child psychologists, and educators from around the world. Every expert admired the mother's dedication, yet every evening ended the same way. Mireia smiled occasionally, nodded when necessary, hugged her mother tightly before bed, but never spoke. Despite carrying enormous responsibilities, Serena never allowed her heartbreak to become bitterness. Her employees often noticed her quietly helping workers facing financial hardship without seeking recognition. Scholarships were funded anonymously. Medical bills appeared mysteriously paid. Families received support during difficult times. The public believed she was driven only by business success, but the people closest to her understood that compassion had become the language she wished her daughter could still use. One sunny Saturday, determined to give Mireia a peaceful change of scenery, Serena left her security team behind and visited an old botanical park on the edge of the city. The gardens were alive with bright flowers, children chasing bubbles, elderly couples feeding birds, and musicians filling the warm afternoon air with gentle melodies. It was the kind of place where life felt slower, almost forgiving. While Mireia quietly watched butterflies floating above rows of colorful blossoms, Serena noticed a man sitting several benches away beneath the shade of a large maple tree. His clothes were simple but clean. A small lunchbox rested beside him, untouched. His expression carried the kind of exhaustion that came not from one difficult day but from years of carrying burdens without complaint. Every few minutes he smiled softly at passing children even though nobody smiled back. The man was named Rowan Mercer. Until 2 years earlier, he had been a respected elementary school music teacher. When budget cuts eliminated his position, he accepted temporary work wherever he could find it. He repaired furniture, stocked grocery shelves, cleaned office buildings, and delivered parcels during weekends. Each paycheck barely covered rent for the modest apartment he shared with his elderly mother, whose failing eyesight required constant care. Rowan had quietly sacrificed every dream he once held because the people he loved needed him more. As Mireia wandered closer to the bench, Rowan noticed a small sparrow hopping nervously beside the pathway with one injured wing. Instead of walking away, he carefully removed a few crumbs from his sandwich and gently placed them near the frightened bird without attempting to touch it. His patience surprised the little girl. She watched silently as the bird slowly gained enough confidence to eat. Something changed inside her. Without taking her eyes off Rowan, Mireia softly whispered the words that froze her mother's soul. "She sounds nice." Serena looked around in disbelief. No woman stood nearby. Then she realized Mireia was pointing toward the tiny sparrow chirping happily as it ate. For the first time in years, her daughter had described a sound. Tears immediately blurred Serena's vision. Rowan turned after hearing the whisper, unaware of the miracle unfolding behind him. He simply offered Mireia a warm, reassuring smile before quietly returning his attention to the little bird. He never rushed toward her, never asked questions, never celebrated. Somehow his calmness felt safer than excitement. From that afternoon forward, Serena found herself returning to the same park every weekend. Almost every visit ended the same way. Rowan happened to be there reading library books, sketching birds, or repairing small wooden toys for neighborhood children. He never forced conversation upon Mireia. Instead, he simply existed peacefully nearby. Gradually the frightened child began sitting closer each visit. Weeks passed before another remarkable moment arrived. As Rowan quietly repaired the broken wheel of a toy wagon belonging to a young boy, Mireia watched every careful movement. When the grateful child hugged Rowan after receiving the repaired toy, Mireia smiled wider than Serena had seen in years. Then another whisper emerged. "Kind." Only one word, but one word became hope. The therapists were astonished. They explained that trauma often begins healing when a child rediscovers emotional safety without pressure. Rowan had unknowingly become that safe place. He expected nothing. He demanded nothing. His kindness existed naturally. Serena wanted to thank him properly but hesitated. She worried that revealing her public identity might change everything. Eventually she introduced herself simply as Mireia's mother. Rowan recognized neither her face nor her famous company. To him she was simply another parent doing everything possible for her child. Their friendship grew slowly beneath bright afternoon skies. They shared coffee from the small park cafe while Mireia painted flowers nearby. Rowan spoke about music, books, old trees, birds returning each season, and how children often taught adults the greatest lessons. Serena realized she had spent years surrounded by brilliant executives yet had rarely met someone whose wisdom felt so gentle. One afternoon she accidentally learned that Rowan's mother urgently needed expensive eye surgery they could never afford. He mentioned it only after repeated encouragement and quickly changed the subject. Embarrassed by his circumstances, without revealing her identity, Serena quietly arranged for a charitable foundation to approve the entire medical expense anonymously. Weeks later Rowan excitedly shared that an unknown donor had saved his mother's eyesight. His gratitude wasn't directed toward money. It was directed toward humanity, watching him thank invisible strangers instead of questioning why good fortune had finally arrived reminded Serena why kindness mattered. As summer approached, Mireia's progress accelerated. She began speaking single words during therapy. Then short sentences. Every tiny achievement felt like sunrise after endless darkness. Yet she still remained unusually quiet around most people. One bright afternoon, the park hosted a children's music festival. Rowan had volunteered to help organize the event even though he no longer worked as a teacher. As children performed simple songs beneath colorful decorations, Mireia sat beside Serena listening carefully. Near the end, organizers discovered one young performer had become too frightened to sing. The audience waited patiently. Silence spread across the stage. Then something extraordinary happened. Mireia slowly stood. She walked toward Rowan. He knelt beside her with the same calm smile he had worn the day they first met. Taking one careful breath after another, Mireia softly sang the opening line of the frightened child's favorite song. Her voice trembled, then strengthened. Soon the other child joined her. The audience remained completely silent until the final note faded into the warm afternoon air. Only then did applause erupt like rolling thunder. Serena covered her face as joyful tears streamed freely. For years of fear dissolved within one unforgettable moment beneath the golden sunlight. News cameras covering the community festival captured the emotional performance. Within days millions watched the remarkable story of a little girl rediscovering her voice through unexpected kindness. Reporters rushed to identify the mysterious volunteer who had unknowingly helped transform a child's life. Only then did Rowan discover that the quiet mother he had befriended was one of the nation's most influential CEOs. That he felt embarrassed, believing she had hidden the truth because of his modest circumstances. Serena gently explained that she had hidden it because she desperately wanted one friendship untouched by status, wealth, or expectations. For the first time in many years, both adults realized they had each been rescued. She had found hope beyond success, that he had found proof that kindness never goes unnoticed. Months later, Serena created a foundation dedicated to helping children recovering from emotional trauma through music, art, and nature. She invited Rowan to become its first director. He accepted only after ensuring the program would always remain free for struggling families. Together they watched hundreds of children begin healing in ways no spreadsheet or medical chart could ever measure. Most importantly, Mireya laughed again. She spoke every day, sometimes endlessly. The silence that had once haunted their home became a distant memory, replaced by music, conversations, bedtime stories, and joyful laughter echoing through sunlit rooms. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Hub so more inspiring stories can reach people who need them most. Special request: comment below with "Kindness gives voices back" if you believe one act of genuine compassion can change a life forever. As the golden afternoon sun bathed the park where everything had begun, Serena watched Mireya happily chatting with Rowan while feeding healthy sparrows beneath the same old maple tree. She finally understood that healing rarely arrives through wealth, power, or perfect plans. Sometimes it quietly appears in the form of a stranger who chooses kindness without expecting recognition. And in a world that often celebrates loud victories, the greatest miracle can begin with 3 soft words spoken by a child who had once forgotten how to speak at all.